And just to make it a little less overwhelming, let's just take it one layer at a time. So you can see how I have things broken up, foreground, midground, background, deep background, and inside of each one of these, I have a base. Sometimes I need to do a patch or an extension, but most of the time it's just side, front, and extend. And now it's time to start color correcting this thing. Right now it's an overwhelming mess, and this is a stage. A lot of people get discouraged with their painting, but it's not supposed to look good yet. You're just getting all the technical pieces together, and when you go into color correction, that's when you can start to bring things together. And we're going to be playing up atmosphere and a lot of other things to make this less overwhelming and less of hard to look at, really. But one of the differences this week rather than last week is we're color correcting to a plate. So we actually have great reference of what the lighting and colors should be and what to match to. We have our original plate here. I'm not going to stick exactly to this in terms of the atmosphere because I do want to have a brighter background to pull your eye to it. But I'm definitely going to be checking my levels and make sure that my blacks and highlights all match to this and are within similar color range, especially since we're going to keep the sky. And the sky it's the same source of light. So when we start color correcting, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just hide and focus on this hero middle building. And this will give us a good base point. When we match this to the plate, then we know that everything closer to us will have deeper shadows and less atmosphere, and everything further away will have more atmosphere. And this has a great lighting direction that's in line with our original plate. So I think this is going to be just a good hero element. And once we get that in place, we can kind of solve one of the main puzzle pieces and adjust everything around it to line up with it and with the plate. So I'm going to isolate this. Ignore my quick paint out of these buildings right here. I'm actually going to hide this for now so that we can use this to reference our color. And I'm going to create a levels adjustment above everything. And the first thing I want to do is get the shadows and highlights to the correct levels. And actually, I'll duplicate this and just grab a section. And now we have our base group here, and we can create our levels adjustments right above it. And with this top levels, I'm just going to bring the highlights all the way until the shadows of the plate begin to disappear. So you can see right now the shadows of our elements is pretty close, just a little darker than the plate. We're matching to this building on the left. So I'm just going to raise the shadows. And I'm going to add a little more warmth into the shadows. You can see here our shadows are falling into cyan, where here we have a little more blue and actually a little more red and yellow. And I'll pull back these highlights just a bit so I can keep checking. And this is just pushing and pulling. That's starting to look right. And as we pull those highlights back more and more, you can see that the midtones are a little too bright. Pull those down. Still a little too much cyan in here, so we'll add a little more red to our midtones. A little more blue. And that's getting pretty close. Our highlight side needs work, but our shadow side's starting to feel pretty good. I'm gonna just take down the saturation a bit. Cool. Now for our highlight side, we really want to pump this up a lot more. It's a little too dark and way too red. I'm going to be going for something a little like this hot edge right here. So because we have our facades separate, we can control click, create a levels adjustment, and just control, well, you know what, let me invert that. And now we can just control this side of the building. And we can do the opposite with that top levels and just bring down the shadows until those highlights disappear. And you can see it's a little too hot here, so we'll tone that down. Add a little more warmth, a little more yellow. Now we got something like that, which is starting to work a lot better. Now this had, you know, it gets a little darker, this element down below, and I kind of want to even that out because we're not really getting that much of a fall off into shadow as we go lower to ground level on this building. So I'm just going to create a soft light layer and just use a big round brush, soft, and just click a couple times. And maybe we'll just let a little more of that happen on the shadow side. And something like that, starting to look pretty good. Got a little bit of too much green and cyan in these windows, so I'll create another layer, grab one of these colors. I'll just use a paintbrush. And now right click and go into blending options and use the blend if settings to just isolate those shadows. And let's see what happens if we throw a soft light on that. Might need to go a little more red. No, this isn't doing that much. Let's get a little more drastic with it. Just grab a red color here. There we go. Create a layer mask. And let's just isolate it to these windows right here. just to get rid of a little bit of that cyan. Don't forget to name your layers, keep things clean. And now we have this mid-ground left building integrated in and looking good. From here, I'm going to work my way up to the foreground and get these in place. I had a little temporary color correction on there, just as I was blocking things out. I'll just kill that and do something a little more accurate with it. Check these blacks, get them matching. Now, another thing is buildings have different colors, and not everything is going to be the same value and the same hue. So there are going to be variations in it, but you want to just check your levels and make sure that you're getting things close, and then allow for a little bit of variation in here. One of the things that's happening here is these blue windows are reflecting the sky in the original element, but we want to match this sky color, and it should be reflecting this. So I'm going to create a layer, grab this sky color, fill it, go into my blend if options, and I'm actually going to go to blue, so it's just checking the blue channel. And sometimes that works, sometimes it might be in cyan. Yeah, there we go. And I'll just throw color on this and just lower the opacity. And I can also duplicate that and create a soft light just to brighten that up. We don't need the soft light actually. This is actually taking us where we need it, just to take out that saturation in those windows. And if we want to go more detailed with it, we can always just actually create a mask for those windows. And I'll just fill the layer, create a layer mask. And just go in here and isolate this. Another quick, easy way to isolate things is to use quick masks. So if you hit Q, you can see the red here. Whatever I paint in red is going to be temporarily masked. So a lot of the times when, rather than painting around small details, it's quicker and easier to paint the details and then just delete those. So if I do this, you can see how much quicker it is rather than trying to work my way around all these beams. And it's nice too because this facade is orthographic. So I can just be holding shift and just dragging straight lines. get quick and get comfortable with masking things out. You're going to be doing a lot of it. But you get a really nice end result if you spend the time on these things. The more time you put into a painting, as long as it's built on a good foundation, you know, it shows in the end. I wouldn't do this for every building. I'd try to find elements that reduce the amount of times I need to do this. Especially if you're working in production and you need to be working fast, you don't have time to do this for 50 elements. But every once in a while, there's an element that'll stick out if you don't do this. Cool, so now that we have that, let me just close this stuff off. You can hit Q again and it just creates a selection. And I'll just select my mask and view that and hit delete. And I can now adjust the windows in any way. And I can always create a levels adjustment. Just copy that mask over. And now I can be color correcting those windows separately. Something like that starts to work a lot better. Great. Again, my temporary color correction when I'm blocking things out. And I'm not going to worry about swapping the light direction right now. I'll do that once I get all the levels and everything in place. Once everything is color corrected pretty decently to the plate, then I'll go through and match lighting directions. So as things get closer to the foreground, their shadows are going to be deeper. So we want to make sure that as we're color correcting, we're matching to this, and then if we're in front of this plate building, we're a little darker, and if we're behind it, we're a little lighter. Cool, just check the highlights. So now we can also be not just referencing the plate, but referencing a building that we think fits pretty well into the plate. That's looking pretty good. I'm gonna throw a soft light on it just to bring down those highlights a little bit. And then I'll adjust the shadows from there. Actually, that's looking pretty good. Cool. So now we have our first couple buildings color corrected and in there. And we're just going to keep doing that for all the others. I chose a lot of elements to put in this map painting because I want to show you how using a couple tools but with repetition can create something that looks really complex. And you know, it is time consuming to go through all the elements, but the end result becomes something really, really awesome and incredible. So I'll go through and color correct these, and next we'll go through matching our lighting direction.